Hello and welcome to the 20th episode, 2-0 of the Sparring Partners Podcast. My name is Kobe McKinley, and across the screen from me, Mr. Brad Jones.
Yo, what up, everybody?
Man. 20, the big 2-0. We're almost big enough to drink, Brad.
We're almost there. We're about to get real drunk, but we're almost there.
Some would say we already have gotten drunk. We're not drunk right now. That was meant to refer to weekends past.
Yeah.
And man, what a past weekend it was, and what a weekend we are looking forward to. Before we get too far into the show, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out big time. Give us a thumbs up if you like the episode or an element of the episode. It's a long episode. These podcasts are usually over an hour long. So if you just find one thing that you like, it would be the most honest thing to do. In fact, the most honorable thing to do, to hit that thumbs up button. And if you feel so inclined, you can comment down below. Questions, comments, or concerns. One concern may be the speed at which my internet runs. That's a concern of mine. Brad, do you have any concerns?
Only that one of my large cat children will just come running and knock all this over. But so far, so good.
That is a concern that some of us have. It is a smaller world already. Yeah, man. So we got together and we watched UFC 259. As we often do, not that card on repeat, but UFC in general. And man, 3 title fights and a bunch of other fights. I remember at one point I pulled you into the kitchen and I said, "I'm not sure I can take it anymore." It was a long card. It was a fun card. It was a long card. Long.
Yeah. We predicted that going in, and it certainly delivered. It was long. Yeah. I mean, we'll get into this later, but I am starting to think that 3 title fights in one night is unnecessary, and we don't.
Bro, we say it every single time. It's this constant cycle of we get super jacked, and we're like, it's 3 belts on one night. Oh my god! And then the next day we're like, man, I'm not sure we needed 3 belts.
It's like, to be honest, we would have been better served one of those title fights just headlining on a fight night card. Or on ABC or something, but whatever. We'll get more into that later. It was a lot. It was a long card, long night, a lot of fights.
Now, we're going to get into, let's just get straight into it. And before we start, I have to say, Brad, following the main event, I've known you a long time. Right. I've known you quite a few years. Mm-hmm. I've never seen you in the emotional state you were in past the main event.
I was quite dejected following that main event. Now, I will say, while I'm a large Israel Adesanya fan and I am invested in him personally, the larger investment was a financial investment that was very close to just pulling off an insane, outrageous parlay that could have, would have pulled up on one of those wacky little tweets they put on the screen about wild parlays. But, of course, it was not meant to be. So after a couple days, took a day off of work to find myself. And then after I came down around Wednesday, right, I was able to process the fight, rewatched it. Still disappointed. I mean, it's like, this is one of those fights where it's like, it was technical. Yeah, it was very technical, but it also was not a barn burner by any means. And they keep pushing this narrative in the post that's killing me, where they're like, look, Izzy, he lost, but he still hung in there with the champion. So he's going to be back and he's going to try it again. And I'm like, why? Why do we need to try it again? I don't understand. What's the point in trying to make this man go up to 205? He was going perfectly fine at middleweight before they were just like, why don't you just put on 20 pounds and go up? and it didn't work. And I'm like, okay, cool. We don't need that. It's unnecessary. Just stay at 185 and rack up 13 title defenses. And like, it's ridiculous. That's another thing that we're kind of over. We're over with 3 title fights, and I'm over the champ thing. It's like it doesn't work. It's proven to not work. No one besides Amanda Nunes, who's going back and forth between 2 dead divisions, is going to actually defend 2 belts. It's just a cool thing to be like, oh, champ. But really, you just moved up a weight class, and you're never going to go back to the last one. So,
yeah, you know what's a shame, right? Is that you would think that the champ thing is like some extension of your dominance, right? And the UFC, as dominant as their champions were for years and years and years and years, would never do it. But the moment it became a precursor to stardom, that's when it became acceptable. And that version of champ is what I am tired of. I mean, honestly, it's the only version of champ. Well, I would say Amanda Nunes and Daniel Cormier are the 2 that I think did it through dominance. Whereas when you're looking at McGregor, he had literally just won the belt. I mean, he was dominant on his way to the belt, but that's not divisional dominance because you're not reigning over the division. And then with Adesanya, he beat a lot of guys coming up. But I gotta call intervention on this real quick.
Yeah.
Every champion beats other contenders on their way up. They all have. All of them have. GSP did it. Anderson Silva, I mean, he got the title more or less as soon as he entered the UFC. He had literally 1 fight. But, like, no one becomes champion in a vacuum. And I'm really tired of hearing the narrative of, like, it's coming up with Kamaru Usman. Like, oh, he beat all these guys on his way up. He beat Leon Edwards already on his way up. It's like, well, that's not cleaning out. That's competing in the division. He still needs to beat him. Like, he still needs to beat him as a champion to clear out the division as a champion. Yeah. Like, that doesn't count. Like, Vettori at middleweight. No, I don't understand why. I genuinely do not understand why people are not pushing for that. Like, the fans just are not pushing for that. The reason why it was a split decision is because he was able to do to Adesanya what Blachowicz did to Adesanya. So it's clear that is not a hole that, because we discussed it last week, right? The absence of seeing a striker be put on his back, right? That could be evidence of 2 things. Either he's never fought a guy who is like that dominant of a wrestler, or his defensive wrestling is so good that that's just not an area we're going to see him. Well, we got our answer on Saturday, and it's that Adesanya's defensive wrestling from the middle of the cage, the way that he fights, it just doesn't help him defend takedowns from there. I am dying to see, like, if Vettori can beat the Britishman. What is his name? Till, right? If he can beat Till, I don't understand why there's a push for Till if he wins, but not a push for Vettori if he wins.
It's clear. So there, you've got the 4-man tournament. They fight a week apart. It's clear what the UFC is doing, right? So they're matching Whitaker up with Costa. The thing is, in all honesty, if Whitaker beats Costa, he of the 4 has the greatest calling card to a title shot. He's the most earning and deserving of it of the 4. But of the 4, all three rematches, the only one that's a fresh face is Till, which is why people want to see it. But they're putting Till and Vettori on ABC, and then Whitaker and Costa get the old ESPN Plus treatment. So they're clearly wanting to push whichever one wins in that ABC spot. If one can finish the other one, They want that. That would be the big fight. I think it's either Till because it's just a striker's delight, fresh matchup, or Vettori rematch, which is honestly really enticing now because I think Izzy made a mistake taking this fight against Blachowicz because it was unnecessary, completely unnecessary. And what did he end up getting out of it? Nothing. He got a massive hole in his game exposed, which we knew was there, but we didn't know was this big of an issue. To now, killed a lot of his hype that he had on that streak of being like, oh, he's undefeated. He's just like this masterclass striker on the feet. No one can touch him. Now it's like, man, if some of those guys at middleweight like really put a wrestling heavy strategy together, might look a little different for Izzy now. So I feel like bad decision all around to even take that Jan fight. It was just dumb. Like we got nothing out of it. Now Jan's gonna go and defend against Glover like he should have the whole time, and Izzy's gonna go back and fight and have to rematch one of the guys that he left the division because he didn't want to rematch him. And it's like whatever, it's fine. We did it, and it's over now.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it was, and we're in agreement there. It was fun to do. It's not gonna lie. Like I was very excited for the fight. As we were all excited for the fight.
Yeah.
But as I've said before, I don't know if I've ever said it on the show, but like, MMA constantly reminds us that being great, doing the extraordinary, is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it constantly drills into your head. Like, oh, all the odds are stacked against fighter A. Oh man, if he could overcome it, that would be the most incredible comeback or most incredible story in sports. In MMA, it like almost never happens, and you're just like the futility of life just becomes reinforced over and over, which is why when Conor McGregor can starch two champions back to back and become a double, that's why it's so extraordinary. And to say that, yeah, rounds 1 through 3 were really close for Adesanya and Blachowicz, but when Blachowicz switched to Plan B, it ceased being close. Like the final 2 rounds weren't close. On the feet, to the extent it stayed there, it was close. But it was really bizarre watching Adesanya struggle from bottom, and it wasn't. And what was bizarre about it is it didn't seem like a struggle. He seemed relaxed on it, like he accepted the position very quickly. And he decided to defend. That was the thing. He just defended from bottom. And I mean, I was yelling at the TV, dig the underhook. Like he didn't even do step 1 of getting up. He was focused on guard recovery. He was really focused on guard recovery. But also, guess what? Without that underhook, you are going to have a very hard time recovering guard. And you can watch the last 2 rounds. Blachowicz has that underhook on the leg overside, where you're trapping your opponent's leg from bottom so you can recover guard on the other side. Blachowicz had the underhook on that side it had to be 90% of the time they were on the ground. And Adesanya wasn't fighting. He wasn't like bracing and then like digging under to try and get there. It just was, honestly, that situation made me miss Dominic Cruz on the call. Because we would have heard about that underhook if Dominic Cruz was on the call. He would have been like, yeah, what Adesanya's doing right now, he's accepted the position. He's doing nothing to get up. He's still doing nothing to get up. He's still done nothing to get up. That was the most frustrating thing about it, was like, dude, you're on the ground. you are losing. Like by the fifth round, it became like the judging was super funky, right?
Yeah.
But at least to me, and I don't know how you felt about it heading into the fifth, I thought it was a one-round fight heading into the fifth round. What did you think heading into the fifth?
It was either yeah.
So the fact that Adesanya, like his corner had to know. At the very least, it's a 5-round fight. Worst case, he's losing.
Yeah.
And Adesanya did not like try to go another gear to get up. It was just a bizarre strategic choice.
I don't think he has that gear at light heavyweight. He had it at middleweight against Gaslam. He needed to hit it, but at light heavyweight, he spent the first 3 rounds getting his legs chopped off by Jan. And some of those checks in slow motion are brutal, kicking his feet clean out from underneath him. And then Jan wrestling heavy in the 4th and the 5th when he's already exhausted. And this dude is ginormous, like 30 pounds heavier than him on fight night. And they're grappling the shit out of him. He didn't even bother trying to get up. Wasn't the most impressive performance from him. But now we got this out of the way. I'm honestly more excited for just the normalcy of things, like Jan defending against Glover.
I'm very excited.
Old man fights are fun, and those are like actual elite old man fights. Something weird too. We'll talk about it in a minute, but I just wanted to throw it in here. So lower down on the card, you had Thiago Santos and Rakic fight, and another fight that kind of underdelivered and wasn't all that crazy. But that division is so wild and kind of shallow that in terms of rankings. Now, after that fight, Rakic is number 2 at light heavyweight. So number 1 is Glover, and number 2 is Rakic now after beating Santos. And it's just like, it's kind of crazy that dude is now at number 2 in that division. I feel like we need to see a lot more of him.
Oh man,
he's up there. So
well, I think that this super fight in the grand scheme was good for both divisions, right? I think the argument that Jan Blachowicz beating Adesanya, he gets some rub now that he beat the superstar Adesanya. Well, I mean, the reality is his next fight is against Glover Teixeira, a man who's been in the UFC for almost a decade, and still casuals, I'm sure, have no idea who he is. Yep. So he got I don't believe that he got any sort of like popularity bump, especially for like winning the way that he did. He won a very technical bout, and he did what he had to do. And that's not a way that you win casuals. Now, if he had starched Adesanya, like if he had slept him, that's how Glover Teixeira gets skipped over for a light heavyweight title shot so that you can go to heavyweight. That's how that happens.
Just look at the numbers. The numbers came out this week. The pay-per-view sold 800,000. 800,000, very respectable number. But let's fight Usman versus Masvidal did 1.3 million. It's like Masvidal's stock is outrageous because of those 3 knockouts in quick succession. But like, he had a whole career before that of technical split decisions, and he was a nothing. Nobody gave a shit about Jorge Masvidal for 15 years, and he put together 3 spectacular knockouts in a row, and he can pull millions of pay-per-view buys all of a sudden. It's like you gotta have the pieces together. Jan's just not gonna have those. This is his great run though, for sure. Him getting the belt, now defending it. This is the like Michael Bisping final chapter of his career for sure. But I'm not expecting him to like just start starching dudes and become a superstar. It's not gonna happen. And the man's old. I'm not expecting to see him that much longer.
So do you? Yeah, because I wanted to address the future of Jan as well, because in the pre-fight, his story gets buried naturally. And in the post fight, his story gets buried. So we've already discussed that he's going to be fighting Glover Teixeira in what many could call the battle of the underdogs. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them is supposed to be there.
Nope.
Yeah, Blachowicz is not supposed to win the title, let alone defend it. So I'm really curious. Will Jan Blachowicz finally be the favorite? I think he might be.
He should be, I would imagine. I'm fairly 50-50 on that fight.
Yeah. I'm not 50-50 on it. I'm like 65-35 for Blachowicz. Just because he's so big, man. He's so big. But you're right.
Glover's been doing some wild shit lately.
Huge. And Glover's been and Blachowicz in the past, that's how he's lost.
Yeah.
Is on the floor. So yeah, you're right. How crazy would that be?
42-year-old Glover.
He's got to retire. He would definitely retire, right?
For sure.
He would have to.
You got to.
Because he's going to
so let's play out the division a little. Let's play out the division a little bit further. So
yeah.
So you'll have those guys fighting for the belt in the summer, likely. Mm-hmm. So as we discussed, the Santos fight against Rakic, essentially you kick Santos out of elite light heavyweight contention, just as Anthony Smith was just kicked out of elite contention. And the way they're lining up Dominic Reyes to be kicked out of elite contention if he gets knocked out by Jiri, whatever his last name is. If Jiri wins against Reyes, he'll be number 3. So I think at that point, the logical thing is you do Rakic versus Jiri, or Rakic versus the winner of Jiri and Reyes. And that fight has to be in a 5-round main event. I mean, you've got now Rakic at number 2 and Jiri fighting to be number 3, and none of these people have seen 5 rounds before, and half these people don't know who they are because they've only got like 3 fights in the UFC and they've shot up the rankings. But theoretically, the person coming down the pipe next is either going to be Rakic, a guy young, kind of boring, sometimes killer, Jiri, a wild, savage killer man, or Reyes, God rest his soul, if he can turn it around. But I don't have high hopes for him. So, yeah, long story short, Glover is going to get the belt, and he's going to peace out real quick and then throw it back to the kids.
Yeah. And like I was saying earlier, I think the super fight in the long run was good for both divisions, not just the top 5 or top 10 or whatever, but really the ripple effect that it does the whole rest of the division. So like no title movement happened at middleweight, which gave time for things underneath the top 4 to kind of rattle and roll. And now you've got, the title was predetermined at light heavyweight too. You had Adesanya, and then you have Glover. Now, the mess would have been had Adesanya won, because he wasn't going to defend. I mean, everyone knew he wasn't going to defend it. He especially wasn't going to defend it against Glover. And especially now, after we've seen he wouldn't. If he had won a decision, like if he had done better in the first 3 rounds and then got grounded for the last 2, you think he's going to fight Glover? Oh no. He's doing anything he can to not take that fight. So, but that's hypothetical bullshit. So what we have now is, the title shot was already spoken for post Adesanya. So now we had some movement at light heavyweight, and everyone down the line knows that there's going to be a gap between when you fight and when the title's getting taken care of. I think it's ultimately a good thing. When divisions are dead, I have no problem with the champ sitting out for a while. Like it just let the division mature. It's like John Jones' last light heavyweight title run. Like, bro, none of the only legit dude, legit, like battle tested, been in the division for a long time. He only fought. I mean, he defended the title, 3 times or 4 times? 4. And then he had the title win against DC. So in terms of legit battle-tested light heavyweight contenders, he fought Daniel Cormier. Then he fought Gustafsson. After that, bro, those guys weren't ready. They were the next guy. They weren't ready. So I think in situations like that, especially like the middleweight situation, there's 2. It's really a shame, actually. I'm kind of bummed that the 2 dudes that I want to see most fight Adesanya are the 2 facing off, because I don't think they do that Whitaker I have no appetite for the Whitaker rematch.
No one does. No one does. Which is why it's like a horrible situation for Whitaker, because he's like, I'm not going to wait around. I'm just going to keep fighting. And he's killing off elite guys. Like that win over Till, he's already got it. And now he's going to take out Costa, who also is never going to get a rematch. I mean, good Lord, after the way that fight's gone and what he's been talking afterwards, they will never give him a rematch against Izzy. Like, those guys are in a bad spot.
Dude, Brazil has a way of making some
fools of
themselves. I don't know if it's their training. I don't know if it's the hard sparring. But they have a way of making some real interesting characters in the fight game. I'll tell you that.
Also,
the wine, man. He couldn't sleep, so he took a bottle of wine. No one had a melatonin capsule. No one.
All right, one last thing on this before we move on. I'm just going to say it. We're going to throw it out there because it needs to be said. All this talk and discussion of an Izzy versus John fight, we can all now say with certainty how that fight would go, and there is nothing competitive about it. We're talking about Glover Teixeira would tear through Israel Adesanya. Boy, John Jones would just take him down and elbow the shit out of him.
It's a shame.
Afterwards, they're still talking about like, well, down the line, Izzy still might fight John. No. There is no down the line. That I'm talking about a 205 John Jones would have obliterated Israel Adesanya. A 240-pound John Jones and just quit. So that's dead and done. Just like the John DC3 fight. If we dreamed of it, it's done.
Who dreamed of it? That's sadistic, man. That's sadistic. The only both of those matchups to me seem sadistic. And I agree. And it was a thing that it was only appealing because we didn't have data to the contrary. Like, we all know that anyone that fights John Jones, you run the risk of getting put to the floor and then elbows in your brain. But now we know more or less something extraordinary. It would be an extraordinary upset for Adesanya to beat John Jones now. Like, it would have been it would have been a 50-50, like, damn, I don't know. Like, I know this guy's got this, that guy's got that. It's like, now that we've seen like what Jan Blachowicz can do as far as with the takedown and wrestling from the middle of the cage. Oh God, dude, that's like an assault. Like, in my mind, the way I play it out in my head, John Jones versus Israel Adesanya is like borderline irresponsible booking.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's move on to the co-main event. And hey, man, it's one of those things where dominance eventually becomes rote. It's like, anyway, Amanda Nunes stops Megan Anderson at 2 minutes, 3 seconds of round 1. Now, we all knew this was a possibility. You hear any matchup with the Lioness in it, and you start game planning for the other girl. You're like, man, she could Megan, she could use her size. She's like a real featherweight. She's like big for the weight class. She's got some pretty good striking. Her jiu-jitsu isn't bad. She's not going to just get wrestled down because of her strength. But this was as dominant as Nunez has ever looked, and it almost makes we may have talked about it on our 259 special, like that, how we were worried about how Nunez was acting in the pre-fight. We were like, ooh, we're worried about her because she's not acting like she has the same edge that she has. Well, shit, man. I guess she doesn't need it because she doesn't need it.
No.
What were your thoughts? About the fight?
This career portion of Amanda Nunes is similar to the end of the career portion of Ronda Rousey, where she's just blowing these chicks out of the water, and it's completely assumed that she's going to win going into it. But there's a different feeling to it. This has like a sad and pathetic feeling to like these last 3 title defenses from Amanda Nunes, where I'm just like, I'm not sure what the difference is. Obviously, none of them are actually deserving of title shots. Megan Anderson is currently, we're how many days removed? She is no longer a UFC employee.
Amanda killed the division, dude.
I hope because Dana says in the post fight, yeah, as long as she wants to, just keep fighting chicks at 145, we'll just keep bringing them in. It's a joke,
dude. We were talking about taking a little bit, like a champ, sitting back a little bit, letting things percolate, letting things mature.
No,
bro, this is like if she wanted featherweight to mature, she would need to step away for a meaningful amount of time.
The whole featherweight division needs to die. There's nothing about it. Cyborg's gone. Kill it. Kill the 145 division. Amanda can defend at 135, and shit, she can defend every 2 years if she wants. She can take 4 years off because there's no number 1 contenders in that division.
No, they're going back to the original Cyborg plan. Like it has been revealed. Yeah, it's been revealed that when the UFC acquired Strikeforce, the original plan was to keep Cyborg on the roster and do what Strikeforce had been doing. Feed her a different woman who weighed in at 145-ish pounds. There was that one horrifying fight against, I can't remember her name, that Japanese woman.
Oh, no.
Do you remember that?
Yes, of course.
Oh, my God. Was that Nashville? That couldn't have been Nashville.
No.
But it was a card around that era.
Yes, Gus Johnson would have lost his mind.
Yeah. Like Marlos Kunin was off for the weekend, and they would just bring a woman who fought at 145 pounds somewhere in the world to challenge for the Strikeforce belt against the Rancor of Cyborg. And that they're going to do that again. Like every so often, you'll get
That's what they've been doing the whole time. They started doing Cyborg when they brought Cyborg over to the UFC. They started giving her, we signed Yana Kunitskaya, all these actual 135ers who would put on 10 pounds and go get murked. So then she gets eaten up by Amanda Nunes, and now they're doing the same shit to Amanda Nunes that division. So this whole time, 145 for years now. We've just been getting fed these one-offs to the point that the hardcores are like, we're done. I'm full of one-off 145 women's fights. No one gets anything out of it except for Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes is the only one that's like, yeah, I get the 2 belts on my shoulders. One of those belts is fake as shit. I don't remember who said it this week. Maybe Chael or some other high personality. But they said it perfectly. They were like, at heavyweight, when you say a person is the heavyweight champion, they're the best heavyweight, you don't need to say they're the best fighter at 210 pounds. They're the best fighter at 220 pounds. It's all of them. Amanda Nunes is the best fighter from 135 up. Just take the cap off of 135 and just say Heck, women 135 and up, Amanda Nunes is the champion. Like the 10 pounds is just
Yeah.
there.
I've thought about that too. Like, why don't they just do women's heavyweight? Like,
That's what it is. It's like, just say, like, 135 and up. I mean, that is women's heavyweight. Who do you got?
But we talked about this last week. It's not that there is not talent at 145 pounds. It's that the UFC does not care about signing talent at 145 pounds. They don't care. They do not care about 145 pounds. Now, if the UFC, this is the thing. I would be in favor of 145 going away. And, it honestly is to the point now where it more or less doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter if they do or not, because the result would be the same, because it's, we're 2 years in and there's still no rankings. There's not enough women to fill out a top.
Way more than 2 years. It's way more than 2 years.
Oh, dude, there's not enough women to fill out a top 5, let alone a top 15. We need atomweight. It's got to happen. Like, it is a populated division. And as fun as strawweight is, atomweight can get reckless, dude. There's so many fighters that are at 115 that came from Invicta at 105. Mm-hmm. Like, there is a sizable amount of talent at 105 pounds. And I really wish the UFC would. I mean, there's a bunch of not a bunch. I mean, there's probably 4 weight classes that I would like to see in the UFC. We're talking atomweight, super lightweight, super middleweight, and maybe a cruiserweight. That would be my stuff, right? 105 for the women, 165, 195, maybe like a 215 type weight class, something like that, or a 225. That would be pretty cool. 195 is like very needed. And we saw that. I think we saw that on Saturday too. 195 would be a legit weight class, man. Like, a 20-pound leap in weight is just insane between weight classes. It just makes no sense why lightweight, it makes no sense from an organizational standpoint to have fighters from 125 pounds up to 155 pounds that can just make 10-pound leaps from one weight class to the other. And then from then on out, it's like, good luck, buddy. Hope you can get big enough for 15 pounds up, or you can get small enough for 15 pounds down. As if you can't, you're shit out of luck. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. But yeah, I was thinking of the Anchorman quote.
Mm-hmm.
The kill the guy quote, Rick killed the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Rick? I knew it was
Brick,
yeah. Brick.
Yes.
Brick. Yeah.
Brick Hamlin, yeah.
Yeah, Brick killed the guy. Amanda killed the division, didn't
he? Killed Amanda Nunes' or Megan Anderson's career. Kicked her out of the UFC. And
she'll go to Bellator, man. Bellator, like I said, Bellator has a semi, like, I haven't looked at the numbers of how many women are at 145 pounds, but like,
at least 5.
It's populated. There are women fighting there.
What's waiting for her in Bellator? Cyborg. That's the best case scenario.
Kayla Harrison.
If she goes and gets worked by Cyborg.
Kayla Harrison fights at women's lightweight in PFL.
Yeah.
And they have to fill 8 slots for that tournament. Yeah. So, like, there are women that are bigger that are like,
they exist.
So anyway, we don't know what's next for Amanda Nunes. at this point, like she stated again and again, like she still loves doing this. And when it's that easy, who can blame her?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? You
Go
work
up,
for
collect an easy paycheck every 6
yeah.
months.
I mean, she's a champ. She gets pay-per-view points, dog. She like 2 minutes 3 seconds of work against a woman.
800,000 pay-per-views. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. All right. So this is the big one as far as the titles go. Like the other two, they were important. They were, the stakes were big for the fighters. This is a first, a legit first, not like a this never happens kind of thing. Like this had never happened kind of thing. Aljamain Sterling takes an illegal knee at 4 minutes, 29 seconds, around number 4 in his title-winning bid against Petr Yan. Man, what a time. What were when you were watching it, what were your thoughts?
Okay, so obviously illegal knee, the fault is on Jan, shouldn't have thrown a blatantly illegal strike. Fight could not continue, should not have continued, so that was all right up until that point. The big question goes into how you handle these situations in a title fight, and I'm not necessarily sure that handing the belt to the person that was just illegally struck is the answer. I would have thought that the best case scenario would probably be a no contest. Maybe. I don't know, but I don't.
The illegal strike the belt.
He can't keep it. Petr Yan doesn't get to keep the belt, but I think it just becomes vacant. Nobody gets it. You fucked up. Here's the thing. It's like Aljo didn't win it, but Jan, you lost it. Like Jan, you lost the belt. You do not get it back.
Oh God! The doctors called a stop to this contest at 4 minutes 29 seconds via illegal knee. Jan, you lost it.
Yeah, you blew it.
You blew it. That's it.
So,
that's it. Jan couldn't
in terms of how things unfolded, I don't have a problem with it because Jan threw a blatantly illegal strike and the fight should not have continued. Everybody's bitching and whining, talking about, oh, fucking Sterling just deserves an Oscar for all that milk in it. Doesn't matter what he like. It doesn't matter. He may have milked it.
No, it doesn't at all.
He ate a blatant illegal strike, and the fight should not have continued. End of story. Also, people are like, he's taking pictures with the belt. Well, they gave it to him, and it's his. He can take pictures of it if he wants. Who gives a shit?
It doesn't matter.
It's like the next fight is going to immediately be a rematch anyway, so who cares? It doesn't matter. And Jan was winning the fight up until that point. So, we'll see what happens, but a very unfortunate situation. I was thinking back to the draw. Remember, so we've had 2 draws in title fights: the Frankie Edgar situation, the second one, and then the Woodley situation. And they're like, "All right, it's a draw."
Moreno.
That's right. And it's like, it's a draw. Just keep the belt, whatever. And that's not how I wanted this to go because it's like, fuck, Jan screwed up. He doesn't get the belt back. So I don't know. I was thinking just vacant belt, but I don't know. What do you think?
It's an interesting thing, right? Because our natural inclination, and it looks like this is what the UFC is going to do, is an immediate rematch, right? This isn't a draw. This isn't it isn't a loss via cut. This was an illegal technique. This was a break in the rules, a blatant break in the rules. And for some reason, we are comfortable treating it like it was some freak, like a draw or a fight ending via cut or a wonky split decision. It's none of those things. It was an illegal technique that Petr Yan saw. Like, you watch the replay, he saw where Sterling's head was. He measured him out. Then he threw it. Like, it was an intentional strike. That's why it's a DQ. So, like, if we are going to strip dudes for, the reason why we don't allow PEDs is because it is cheating, right? We're willing to strip people of belts and not give them the opportunity to fight for a belt again until they can prove that they have competed clean, or at least they didn't get caught for competing dirty. Like Dillashaw. Dillashaw is going to have to fight a bout to prove that he can piss clean in order to get a shot at the belt again. Like, in my opinion, that's how we should be proceeding. Like, Petr Yan needs to take another fight, prove that he can follow the rules, and then we consider him getting his belt back. But for whatever reason, the community has decided, no, this is just like any other ending to a fight. They're almost treating it as an illegitimate ending to a fight.
Yes,
it's very legitimate. It's legitimate as hell. When you cheat, you get disqualified, and you lose via disqualification. It is a very legitimate way for a fight to end. And whether or not people like it or believe Sterling, like if they believe that it affected him or not, doesn't matter. It's not on him to make that decision. He didn't make the rules. He got fouled to the extent that it was so bad that the doctor was, looking at Mark Smith like, I don't know, dog. I'm not sure about this one. So yeah, man, I'm a little bit annoyed by the whole situation. We're gonna get the rematch. It's gonna happen. Probably Petr Yan. Judge it. This is what I'll say is Sterling. One thing that he can definitely take away from this fight is pace, man. Like, to get away from the foul and to talk about the actual fight. Sterling, dude, he opened up such a high pace in the first round. And then he did it as long as he could in the second round. And that's when the tide turned, man.
Yeah.
About halfway through the second was when Aljamain Sterling was like, okay, I've done the hyper-aggressive thing, and now it's done.
Yeah.
I'm done now. And it goes back to like what Chael said a long time ago. You're either going to fight for a finish. If you fight for a finish, you're going to lose a decision. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And that is what we were watching play out before Petr Yan blasted Sterling in the skull with his knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what? So your thoughts on the fight were about the same?
Yeah. No. Yep. I double down on all of that. I can get on board with all the stuff that you said.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Further on down the card, we'll go ahead and move on. We cannot move on. We can't move on. Sandhagen, dude. Corey Sandhagen. What happens to Sandy? What happens to Sandhagen? What does he do?
Pretty easy one to me. You do Sandhagen versus Dillashaw.
Yeah. I think that's a very sensible fight to make, and I think that it's a fun one too, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fun. So now we mentioned Sandhagen now. Crisis averted. Let's move on down the card. And there were some other big wins. And I'm just going to rattle through so I can get through a few of them, right? I'm going to start at the very bottom, and then we'll work our way to the tippy top, okay? Trevin Jones with a big KO. That was dope. Uros Medic, man. Did you see his fight?
Yep. The prelims were banging, son.
Bro, Uros Medic. Just when you think like, okay, so he was 6-0 heading into the fight, all first round TKOs. And you think like, oh, okay, he's fighting in Alaska. He was an Alaska FC fighter. So you're like, okay, they're literally pulling dudes out of igloos and throwing them into the cage and being like, get in there, man. Here's $100 and a meal ticket. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You expect him to slow down. And instead, he gets yet another first round stoppage at 1:40 in the first. I'm super excited to see this guy fight more, man.
Yeah.
Sean Brady, dude, taking out Jake Matthews. How impressive was that?
Yeah, it was dope. Quite impressive performance.
After that came a light heavyweight war. Talk about pacing. Again, City Kickboxing Zone, Carlos Olberg came out at the start of the fight and was lighting Kennedy Nchukwu up, man. He was really putting on a clinic in the striking. But Nchukwu, he stayed tough. He showed some good defense as well. And man, oh man, the dog came out of him and he put Olberg away, dude. What a war.
Yeah, City Kickboxing homie put the pedal to the floor in the first round. He hit him with everything he had, and then Nchukwu pulled the old Overeem, do this and stand there and eat him for 5 minutes, and he did. And son, that second round, he was like, I'm going to go now. And he went and he murked him.
Yeah, my name for that is like, I wanted to put it in like old karate terms. So I've dubbed that Overeem move quicksand arms. Because that is what it is, man. It's like when Overeem was at his best, it's like you can't see, you're not sure if he's hurt, close to being finished, or just like doing like these micro movements like this that is like, it's like watching Goku fight. They're like, oh, he's standing still. It's like, no, he's not. He's moving so quick. You can't see him move. Tim Elliott takes out Jordan Espinoza. In the course of the fight, Tim Elliott not only won a unanimous decision against MMA judges, but possibly opened up a court case with legal judges against Jordan Espinoza. Talk about a win-win. That was a pretty great fight as well for Tim Elliott.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Again, Jordan Espinoza, he's like, I beat you, and also don't ever hit women, Jordan.
Yeah.
And then the media is like, hey, Tim, what was that about hitting women? And Tim Elliott's like, yeah, I didn't realize in the cage in which we're recorded fighting that we were around a microphone.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to put him on blast like that.
Whoops.
That was my favorite moment of the post fight, is when Tim Elliott, a man who fights on television for a living, thought he could keep a secret inside the cage, speaking at normal volume. I love that. Kai Kara-France gets a finish at 4:55 against Rogerio Bontorin. Good for him. That's how I felt about it.
He was getting tore up, son. He was getting tore up. He was real lucky.
Sure was.
Oof, he was lucky. He was the lone survivor of City Kickboxing that night. They had a rough night.
We had Askar Askarov taking on Joseph Benavidez. It was a good fight, and I felt it was one. Joseph Benavidez lost, and he lost handily. He didn't get necessarily hurt at any moment, but I feel like it was a very important fight for Askar Askarov, because Joseph Benavidez is a guy that's not going to let you slide in any position or any situation. He's a fighter that's going to test you everywhere. And I felt like it was a really important, while it's not telling us what the skills ceiling is for Askar Askarov, it's showing us that he can indeed mix all of it at a high level. Did you come away with any thoughts about his victory?
Yeah. That was huge for him. That was my guy. That was my lock for the card. He dominated Benavidez, clearly demonstrating that he is a future title challenger. I believe Benavidez was ranked number 5 at the time, I think. So that puts Askarov now at like number 5 in the division. So here in the next couple fights, I expect to see some dope stuff from him. I have high expectations for Mr. Askarov.
Yeah, and I said pre-fight that I thought Joseph Benavidez was going to win because Askarov was going to have to show us a new level to be able to implement his game on a fighter like Benavidez, and he did exactly that. So, yeah, man, color me wrong. I don't care. I'm excited to see that guy fight.
Yeah.
Kyler Phillips taking on Song Yadong. That fight went as opposite a fight as any on the preliminary card, man.
I had not expected that one at all.
No, Phillips. Phillips was like, oh, hey guys, while I was gone, I learned how to be a pretty decent volume striker. It was great. It was great from him, and it unfortunately for Song Yadong derails the momentum of the Team Alpha Male prospect. So
Team Alpha Male not looking great lately at all.
He'll be back. And then Dominic Cruz, man. Dominic Cruz back in the news for taking out Casey Kenny.
Yeah. In the end. Yeah, that one kind of came across. It felt like a tune-up fight in the end. But
yeah,
it's like, that's fine. I mean, it's a good win for Dom, but I still have concerns about him facing like a top 5 guy in this division. I still don't want to see it. Like, I'm glad that he got the win and he's back on track, but I don't want them to be like, all right, now fight Sandhagen or now fight Dillashaw. Like, no. I would rather see him fight like Frankie Edgar or Aldo.
Yeah, I mean, if he were going to rematch, oh, man, those are just my dream fights, man.
They're all in the same division now. They're all 3 in the same division. They were 3 different champions. The 55, 45, and 35 champions have now all convened in the same weight class.
Please, let me see Dominic Cruz fight either Aldo or Edgar before they leave the sport.
That's the thing, is like, we're running out of time. We got to.
I know. Both are fights that, God, man, I want to see. I want to see those fights so bad. It's like those are fights for the hardcores. I've already told you before, and I've said it on the show. My favorite fights in MMA are, 37 to 41-year-old dudes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best. Like, not just like random guys from the Dave and Buster's, but like freaking, like dudes who've been there, like Matt Brown versus Carlos Condit. That is a perfect example of what I'm looking for with a dusty old man fight.
Yeah.
Like, they can do it all because they've trained it all for the last decade or more. Yeah, man, we got to see those fights. And I'm right there with you. Dominic Cruz, if he were to fight a top contender, it would have been right now, or immediately following this fight, taking on Dillashaw in his comeback. Because I do not care what Cruz says. Ring rust is real. It's totally real. I think we saw it in his fight against Casey Kenny. He wasn't moving the same. He wasn't able to get out of way of shots the same. Now, I think I would need to watch the fight back, and I would need to compare his fight with the Cejudo fight and maybe even the fight before that. But I believe he's changed his stance and the way that he moves.
I'm
And
sure
I would imagine it's a little bit narrower. It seems to be, at least. I need to go back and watch the Casey Kenny fight. But if memory serves, I thought it looked a bit narrow. And I think that might be his game planning to counter the leg kicks that are inevitably coming because of how much he moves and how good guys are at leg kicks now. So I'm wondering how that adaptation of his game would work against some of these guys. But yeah, right now would be the time to fight a guy like Dillashaw, who hasn't fought in 2+ years.
Yeah,
so, but
true.
that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. Well, let's go ahead and we're gonna talk a little bit about UFC Vegas 21. Not gonna talk a bunch about it. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the main event. All right. We got some posts on fightfreaks.co. It's a preview by myself for the prelims, and then there's a preview by Evan Montgomery for the main card. He goes in a little bit more depth than I do. As far as his prediction, he actually tries to nail down the method of victory, which is just so hard. It's just so hard to do that, but he does, and he does a decent job at it. He went undefeated. He's gone undefeated a few times, man. He's really good. But anyway, if you want a full breakdown of this card or any other, go to the website, fightfreaks.co. Now, let's talk about the main event. Leon Edwards taking on
Belal Muhammad.
Yes. You know what you did just then, Brad? You remember the name.
Oh,
that's
son.
What you did.
That name
That's
was
what you did.
Oh,
yeah. You remember the name, Belal Muhammad.
Yeah.
Now, they're facing down at 170, facing off. Facing down is that's a different activity. But listen, we're gonna talk about this main event at 170 pounds. Leon Edwards is he's been inactive, but unlike a lot of other inactive MMA fighters, he was not popped for illegal drugs, and he didn't blow out a joint or ligament. He just didn't fight for like 2 years. Belal Muhammad, he's done pretty good for himself. He's coming off of a dominant, crazy high-paced beatdown of Diego Lima. Super impressive. And he hopped on this fight. Khamzat Chimaev, right? He's over there. He's got COVID. He's coughing up blood. I wish him the best. He's got like he's got like the next form of TB, which really sucks for him. And while he is, fighting for his health and fighting off the pressure from a murderous dictator, Belal Muhammad fills his shoes. And man, I'm not sure how to feel about this fight, to be honest. I might actually like Muhammad a little bit more.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I will go. So I'm going to dive straight into this thing head first. I'm going to work from my detailed prediction and work my way backwards. So originally, I was feeling a Leon Edwards decision going into this fight. Having thought about it and researched it and thought about it some more and then bet with my money, I have now officially decided upon a Leon Edwards KO or TKO, and I shall explain further why. Now, I would expect them in a typical fight being booked between these two on full camps, 5-round main event, that this would go to decision. I will fully say that. My difference in this is Belal Muhammad just fought 17 days ago, and in that fight, his front leg was tore and chewed up. That leg suffered a lot of damage to it. Leon Edwards on the other side has been out for 2 years. And in that time, before that time, he had kind of ran his way up through the division to get to a number 3 ranking. In this last 2 years, while he's been sitting out and beefing with the UFC, they've taken it away from him forcefully at some point and unranked him. And then eventually he got that ranking back. Also,
there's no better indication for the legitimacy of the UFC rankings than the Leon Edwards story.
Yes, they got beef with you, so we take it away, and then we agree to fight who we want, and so we give it back. But long story short, while he's been away, a lot has changed in the division, and especially with the way things are currently situated with Usman, I think he knows that he needs to come in here and make a big statement. He knows that the pressure's on. He's been out of the limelight. People are doubting that he's a real legit guy. I think he's going to feel the pressure to go in here. He's had the full camp, more than a full camp, a 2-year-long camp. I think he's going to try to really put it on Belal, go after that leg that's probably still injured in some way, and try to get a finish to emphasize that he is the guy that should be next to get the title shot. Even as Dana said this week, that if he does something spectacular or impressive, that he'll get the next title shot, even though they're
we all know.
Of course, that's definitely not going to happen. But
that's not only like Dana White. At least this time, he's walking his statement back slowly, because before it was if Leon Edwards wins, he gets a title shot, and that's when it was against Chimaev, right? And this, we've spoken about it before with the UFC assuming dudes should take, not only do they want guys to take short notice fights, guys should take short notice fights, right? It speaks to a lack of respect for what a fighter does.
Yeah.
If anything, this should further the case for a Leon Edwards title shot. But at the end of the day, that's just Dana White saying stuff. Like, that's just him. It's no longer him. I'm convinced of this now. He does not say stuff like that to convince a fighter to play ball. The fighter thinks it's to get the fighter to do what Dana wants. It's not that. It is to get people to watch the fight.
Yeah.
He is putting stakes on the fight. The fighter is like, all right, Dana gets it. He gets that what I want, and I'm doing this for the company, and I'm taking on this unranked, unknown guy, Kamzat. Now I'm taking this short notice guy, Muhammad, who was also, the hardcores know him, but the wider fan base doesn't remember the name. I couldn't stop. I can't stop, man. I can't stop. Listen, if you make your nickname a phrase, I'm going to fit that bitch in wherever I can, all right?
It just fits you well.
So, yeah, it is to get people to speak about the fight. Because how much buzz would there be around a Leon Edwards bout if there were zero title implications at all?
None.
Leon
Edwards has never had high pace.
Can I give you my prediction?
Please, yes.
My prediction is that we get a 5-round Leon Edwards decision.
That is what's most likely to happen.
I think that Muhammad comes on strong. He tries to set a high pace, and Leon Edwards does what he's. Listen, man, I'm not hating on the style. The style is effective. Leon Edwards is as good at wall install as any striker has ever been. He's leagues beyond Holly Holm levels of wall install, dude. He's so good at it. And when you try and put a pace on him, he's real quick to be like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm
Okay.
not. I'm not. I'm not just throwing. I'm not throwing them bungalows with you anymore. We're going to knee each other in the thighs and tummy for 25 minutes. That's what we're going to do now. And I'm good at keeping my back off the cage, so I'm going to win. Now, um, I think you're right about Muhammad's leg. I do not think that's going to be fully recovered. I would be very surprised if it's fully recovered by the time he fights Edwards. But the cool thing for Muhammad, because typically Leon Edwards would be the one that would want to set a high pace because Muhammad is taking this on short notice.
Right.
But Muhammad's straight off a training camp. And other than the damage he took to his front leg, he didn't take any damage to the head.
Also, never been 5 rounds before. He's never. He's went.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Leon's been in 5 rounds in the UFC before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the biggest fight of Muhammad's career, clearly.
Yeah.
Does a win? What is a win for him? What does a win do for him? There we go. English.
It puts him in the top 5.
Yes.
That's it. He's not. He would not be fighting for a belt or anything. He'd just be a top 5 guy.
But do you think that it would matter? Do you think it would matter?
It would matter to Leon Edwards.
It would matter to Leon Edwards. I'm talking the big picture. Because 170 pounds has, in my mind, unfortunately, turned into a diva division. It has really turned into a diva division in that, not diva as far as women, but like maybe prima donna or however you want to say, people that are very confident of their worth, and they are not willing to put their worth on the line for people they perceive to be less than their worth, or they're not willing to put their worth on the line for people who won't get them more worth. It's honestly like how to destroy a division 101. Like the top of the division has no interest in giving anyone below them an opportunity to take their spot.
Yep.
And not through fighting, through just straight up not taking bouts.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to watch. It's insane to. I have never seen anything like it before in the UFC.
No.
It's honestly shocking.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it's honestly like the top 4 of the division turned into Rashad Evans from 2012. Not 2012. What year was it? He wouldn't fight anyone. He was waiting for Shogun. 2010.
That's when he had the belt, right?
No. It was when he was about to get his title rematch. And so he sat out. It's how Jones got the belt. It was 2011?
Yeah, 128, UFC 128, 2011, yeah.
Yeah. So Rashad Evans is like, why would I risk my spot for anyone else? And everyone's like, Rashad, you should definitely fight because it's going to be forever because Shogun has to get, both his knees sewn back on. Okay. Mm-hmm. You should take a fight. And he's like, no, I'm not going to take a fight. I'm not risking my spot for nobody. And then he blows his knees out.
Yeah.
And then when he said this in multiple interviews. And actually, he's been asked about this in reference to the welterweight division. His number one regret in his career is that he did that. Because like the window is so short. The window is so short, and you don't realize it when you're in it. But if I could have done anything, I would have fought more when I could do it. I think that we're going to have a lot of regret from a lot of fighters at 170 pounds in the future.
Yeah, they're giving up a lot of time in the prime of their career. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yep.
Somebody give Wonder Boy a fight. That's what I think.
Swear.
Do you think the Leon Edwards? What's the you know what? I think I just accidentally stumbled upon the most likely outcome for a Leon Edwards win
Mm.
is a Wonder Boy Thompson fight.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't that heartbreaking for both men?
Which is crazy because it's the fight. That is the fight that Leon Edwards turned down 6 months ago.
Yeah,
He's working towards something that he turned down. He could have had half a year ago.
It's one of those things where I'm just not sure. I'm not sure because people have said this for years. Like, you need to get these title promises in writing. I just don't think it's a thing the UFC does.
It can't be.
Everything it can't be. You're right. You're right. It cannot be a thing that the UFC does.
Because, like, you can never, like, so, like we were talking about earlier with the Corey Sandhagen situation. I mean, logically, Corey Sandhagen is your next contender. And you could say, like, all right, you're going to fight the winner of Aljo and Sterling. Well, you certainly didn't know that Aljo Sterling was going to be a total shit show that required an immediate rematch. And so now it's like, well, Sandhagen, you are still the number one contender, but now you're going to have to fight again. So it's like, well, then fuck, I'm not really the number one contender anymore.
In my dream scenario, you know, I'm addicted to a game called World of MMA 5, Brad.
Yeah.
It's where you are a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how I would handle it, because I can't stand cheaters in my promotion. Mm-hmm. Right? I own a company in this game. I also own a child organization. It's my feeder league. They get all my scraps. They get all the scrum, right? Yeah. Anyone who cheats, anyone who comes up for PEDs, they get shot straight to that child league, and they never come back. Now, if I were a matchmaker for what's happened, Dillashaw gets Jan. That's what he gets.
Cheater fight. I'm down.
It's a cheater fight. Anything goes. look under the cage. There could be a baseball bat. Look under the cage. There could be a steel chair. Whatever you want. The ref is gonna. You know, he's gonna miss. He's gonna miss the eye pokes and the groin shots, and it's gonna be a grand old time.
It's just gonna be Herb Dean. All right. So.
Yeah. It's gonna be. You know, it's gonna be hell in a cell. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, I would have Aljo Sandhagen rematch, and I would have Jan versus Dillashaw for the number one contender. That's how you handle cheaters.
I'd be totally down with that.
Jan cheated.
Yeah.
God. Well, all right. I think that's I thought I had some quick hits or whatever. Oh,
I got you. I got quick hits.
Oh, okay. Okay, so can I just maybe I'll save this for the very end because we're right now we're at 118 and looking to go about 90 minutes. So
I'm just I got three. They announced 3 big fights this week. We're gonna throw them out and discuss.
Surprised me. You told me before the show, and I didn't look them up. Go ahead.
There's three larger fights they announced, 2 title fights, and then 1 just big fight. We'll get the title fights first. So first we have on the same card. This is going to be on 261. Co-main event is going to be Valentina defending her belt against Jessica Andrade. Andrade just moved to that weight class and knocked out the number one contender, Chukagian. So now she's very dangerous, taking on Valentina. And then in our main event, we're going to have Weili Zhang defending against Rose Namajunas, which is going to be wild. That's going to be wild.
Cannot wait.
Precision striking of Rose versus the wild tornado of Zhang. And then there's the big one. It's a big one. It's concerning to me, and that is Tony Ferguson versus Benil Daryush.
Ooh, dude, that's the type of old man fight I am ready for.
I agree. It's a great fight. It's a fantastic fight. I'm glad that they were looking down the rankings to find Tony an opponent rather than looking up, because that's what they should be doing right now. I'm glad that they did that. at the same time, even though they look down, man, Benil Daryush might be the toughest dude in that, like, maybe he's ranked like 10 or 11, like that, like 15-5 range. Like, dude, Benil Daryush, outside of Islam Makhachev, might be like the toughest guy. And I am quite concerned for what appears to me to be rapidly deteriorating Tony Ferguson against kind of right now a surging Benil Daryush.
Yeah, but is he? But is he though? This is what I'll say. Is yeah, he lost. He lost the title fight pretty handily. I mean, he got stopped.
Yeah.
Right. He got beat down, and then he lost to a guy who with Khabib pseudo retire. I mean, he's retired. Okay. You have pseudo champion Khabib. You take him out of the picture because he is retired.
Mm-hmm.
Might be the best guy in the division. That's the other guy that Oliveira. Oliveira might be the best guy at 155.
Yeah.
So I think that we see a more competitive Ferguson. Well, actually, I'll say this. I think it goes one of two ways. Either Daryush sleeps him in some way, shape, or form, either via choke or blunt force trauma, or Tony Ferguson can compete against the guys not numbers 1 through 3.
Yeah. I'm foreseeing it being a grappling heavy affair. I think Daryush could implement some strong grappling on him. But interesting fight nonetheless. That's coming up in, I forgot what card that's on. Maybe that's on 261 as well, potentially. But yeah, those 3 fights, rather large. What else you got?
We kind of skipped over this, right? I meant to bring this up during the Nunez discussion. So Pena she had a fight booked that I was very excited for against Holly Holm, and Holm fell out of the bout. I can't. What happened to her? I can't remember.
She disclosed what it was. It was some type of injury with like something going on with one of her organs.
Right. So Pena was like, okay, so more or less we were going to fight to see who gets the next shot at 135.
Yeah.
She's like, I was going to fight the Faber of the women's bantamweight division, but instead now I guess I'll take a bye and I'll just go straight to a title shot. Nunez was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I believe she may have pitched a rematch for Pena against GDR as a way to get at the title. And Pena was none too happy about that. She thinks that Nunes has been ducking her forever. And I mean, I'm at least halfway sympathetic to her stance, because a part of her plea is like, you haven't defended this thing since 2019. Like, the division, whether you think it's dead or not, there are girls here chasing a belt and you're holding it hostage. Like, if you don't want to defend it anymore, if you think that you're getting too big or whatever, like, just give it back. Like, let us fight for it, or let me fight you for it. There's no one else. I mean, like, I couldn't name another person that's like on a not named Valentina Shevchenko that would be like a fight I'm itching to see at 135 pounds. I'm actually pretty down with her taking on Pena. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a fight that Nunez would win, but it's not a fight that I think Nunez would like. I don't think she would do to Pena what she did to Megan Anderson, at the very least.
Yeah, this is a rare situation where I am 100% on both sides.
Yes.
It's just both sides are totally logical. On Amanda's side, she just fought, and now she's got a chick being like, yo, fight me in a couple weeks at a 10 pounds less weight class. Amanda Nunes is like, look, bitch, I just got done fighting. You are on a 1-fight winning streak and are like 2-3 over the last 5 fights. You don't deserve to fight me. I'm chilling for like I'm should be chilling for the next 2 years and just fucking off and letting this weight class live a little bit. On the Pena side, obviously, the situation you're in, you had a fight booked up. You're supposed to be getting paid. Now you're not going to have a fight. Shoot for the stars. You're the only one there. Shoot for the title shot. And if the stars were more aligned, this would probably work out. They probably would just be like, sure, you put your hand in the air. Why not? Go ahead and fight Amanda Nunes. So it's like she's taking like the Chael approach. Like, you're not going to get something clearly, so just like call it out, and then when it doesn't work out, just be like, oh, well, you're scared because I was there, like the people calling out like Hamzat. It's like it's smart to do both ways, but at the same time, is it going to happen? No, it's not. They're just not going to book that right now. I think they let Amanda sit on ice for like at least till the summer. I don't see Amanda fighting.
You just have to let these, like, if you invest in a division, it is not dead. Like a division you invest in, and you invest time in, and you invest promotional power in, does not die. I think that women's bantamweight featherweight, it's like a non-argument. There's literally just I believe officially now on the UFC roster, there are the 2 women that are about to fight in a week or 2.
Yep.
And Amanda Nunes.
That's it.
There's literally 3 people.
Yep.
And the winner of that next fight ain't getting a shot at 145. If they do, that would like blow my mind. There's just no way.
It's a person that's 1-0 versus the person that just lost to Amanda Nunes. So
yeah. So women's bantamweight has talent there. It's just, honestly, it is it's a lot of women who've been around a while. A lot of people have formed their opinions of these women already because they've been around since the inception of women's bantamweight. You have Sarah McMahon. You have
that's a big problem, I think, is that no new blood has rose up in the 135 division. Like you said, she has not defended that belt in 2 years. No new face has came onto the division in 135. I mean, like all those, the Holly Holmes, all the girls that she's already fought are all still there. And like,
well,
maybe
do you think
fight each other every once in a while? But
do you think the only reason 135 was ever a hot division was that 125 didn't exist yet?
Yes, and it was just like it was new. So all these people were new. You didn't know who. I mean, like, remember, nobody gave a shit about Holly Holm until she knocked out Ronda Rousey. Like, she was being wrote off as like, oh, this is another like joke of a title defense. We just didn't know who any of these people were, and now we know who they all are because they've all fought Ronda and they all fought Amanda Nunes, and they're all just there. They're all still the same, just sitting there. No one new has come into the division. Like, at least at 115, like, look at 115, like, we thought we had it all figured out, and Weili Zhang comes running out of nowhere. Like, she's totally new blood, fresh on the scene, runs in, takes the belt, like completely switches it up. 125 is constantly getting people moving in and out from 115 and 135. Like, it's just 135 is so stagnant. But it's like, in all honesty, yes, number 6, Juliana Pena on her 1-fight winning streak is probably the next person to fight Amanda Nunes, but the truth is, if she wants to make a paycheck, she's going to have to fight somebody else in May.
Well, let me end the show with this. And it was a regrettable quote that I read from former UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir. He fights on the undercard of the Jake Paul versus
Ben
Askren, former hip replacement recipient and man who is primarily a wrestler. Frank Mir fights on the undercard of that against Antonio Tarver, a standout boxer, a man who holds wins, most notably over Roy Jones Jr. And Frank Mir gave a statement in this press release, officially announcing these undercard fights. And I saw this, and I immediately face-palmed. Frank Mir said in a statement, "I'm a competitor. I have been all my life. I take on challenges to grow and better myself as a person. I have always wanted to test myself in the boxing ring, so when this opportunity arose, I jumped on it." Now that doesn't sound too bad. That sounds like general fighter talk.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the statement goes off the rails. And as an MMA fan, I'm not happy about it. Frank continues, "I will prove that MMA training, in fact, makes us the best boxers. And I stand for all MMA fans and fighters. This isn't just a boxing match. This is the one that will finally prove the skill and dedication of all MMA fighters."
No.
Bro, it ain't you, Frank. It ain't you, Frank.
We do not want you fighting for our
no!
to defend our honor.
Frank.
None of us asked for you to go defend our honor against
No one asked for this, man. No one asked for this.
For us.
No, you do not speak for us.
No.
No one asked for this. It's it really is a regrettable choice of words. And I'm really tired of, I don't know anymore. That's a very 2008 statement to make. No MMA fan and no MMA fighter is even saying, MMA fighters are the best boxers. No one says that because it's not true. We all know it's not true.
And it's a question that no one is asking because
no one is asking
the answer to it. The answer is irrelevant.
The answer doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
The answer, yeah. Who's the best boxer? A professional boxer or a mixed martial artist? Now, if we're talking who's the best fighter, that is an interesting discussion. But in terms of I'm so tired of this, man. Boxers get them every time. They get MMA fighters. MMA fighters are so easy MMA fighters are just so eager to prove themselves, prove their worth to a community of people that won't think that they're shit either way.
Yep. Yeah.
It's genuinely shocking.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't respect you before. They won't respect you after. And if they really wanted to fight, there's a reason why boxers aren't being like, I've always wanted to test myself against a mixed martial artist. Yo, Dana, let me get in that octagon.
No.
It's like they do this straw man of those MMA fighters really think they can box. I'm going to prove they can't box. It's like, all right, man, Frank Mir, go protect our honor in the sport we know and love. A man who retired for getting knocked out and not being able to get his grappling going is signing up He got knocked out when he couldn't get his ground game going. That's what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he retired from MMA.
Yeah.
And now he's decided it's time to make the jump to boxing against a former boxing heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
No. All right. Well, we've gone on. And yeah, this has been the Sparring Partners Podcast. My name is Cody McKinley, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Brad Jones. Say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people. Catch y'all next week for episode 21.
That's good. 21. Maybe we'll have a celebratory drink of red.
Potentially. Maybe some red for the 21st.
Maybe. Let's have some red for the 21st.
Yeah.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Have a good week and a good fight night later on today.
Yep.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.